So round 17, the two Friday games are done and dusted. The Blues taking down the Reds and the Waratahs pipping the Rebels to results in this round. For the first game, the Blues, last home game of the season, they finally got a win. About time. It's, I guess, if nothing else, a bright spot that they managed to get at least one win at home throughout the whole season, because that would have been an all-new low, even though this is pretty much still an all-new low, but it would have even been a lower low to not get any home wins in the season. It was a pretty poor crowd. It kind of makes sense because, results have not been that great, so it was a bit disappointing for Jerome kind of to go out with so few people watching, but there was a nice little guard of honour from both teams at the start of the game to clap him on out, so that was kind of a good moment. And then he started the game with a knock-on. Like from the kickoff, Jerome kind of knocked it on in his last game at Eden Park, so that was a little bad for him. But I mean, the result went his way, so can't have too many complaints. To be fair, the start of this game was a lot of errors from both sides. It was dropping the ball, line-out mistakes, kicking the ball out on the full, all kinds of stuff like that. It looked pretty cold, so I guess the ball was a touch wet. But yeah, it wasn't free flowing by any means at the start of the game. Kind of the sides exchanged penalties, and the Reds really had the wood over that Blues scrum. But the Reds got themselves in trouble with a couple of yellow cards. There were a lot of yellow cards in this game. The Reds down to 13 men. Having a double yellow card, kind of 8 minutes, during which the Blues managed to put on 13 points. So yeah, I should mention try scorers in this game: Nanai, Rico, Ioane, Moulds, Perifeta and Clark for the Blues. For the Reds, it was Paiawa and Murphy. So yeah, the Blues dominant in terms of the try scoring. But yeah, Tupou's yellow card, I felt a little bit hard for him because he was deemed to be doing a grass cutter. He was probably going in a bit low. But I feel like the leg that he hit was probably moved slightly as he was probably trying to wrap his arm around, but he ended up getting it on the inside instead of the outside, so it kind of flopped his arm back in. It looked like he was going with the shoulder. Still put himself in an awkward position anyway. Ben Skeen, the TMO, who I'm not a huge fan of, only interjected twice into this game, so I guess that's a bright spot, if nothing else. So yeah, halftime was 21 points to 6. It was looking pretty comfortable for the Blues. Perifeta's kicking wasn't the best. Neither side was kicking great in this game. I think both sides around 50-odd% in terms of their kicking, although not all his kicks were easy. One definitely was pretty easy, and he shanked it pretty far wide. Blues had some pretty good mauled defense right on halftime, which showed some good spirit to kind of hold things out. And then the Blues had their own double yellow card moment in this game as well. Mostly from conceding scrum penalties. I said the red scrum was on top, and eventually the Blues got punished for it with Mafileo getting a yellow card for that. Not long after Martin had been yellow carded. So during that double yellow card, the Reds only managed to score 5 points, so that was kind of a big difference in the game. So yeah, not a bad way to send old Jerome out with a pretty comfortable victory. I would say the Blues still need to work on their kickoff receipts because those were pretty poor. Hamish Stewart and Moses Sorovi need more time together because they were pretty average in this game. They both got subbed at 45 minutes. It's not very often your 9 and 10 get subbed at 45 minutes because I'm still not convinced Sorovi is the first choice 9. I want to see Tuttle back, but he's seems to be out in the wilderness for the Reds, so don't know what he needs to do right. He only signed a contract extension this year, so I'm not sure what he's done wrong, but he's on the wrong side of the coach, whatever happened. So yeah, in terms of stats, the Blues had almost 600 run meters to the Reds' 150. The Reds' tackling percentage was at 77%, the Blues were at 88%. Apart from that dominant scrum, there wasn't much going the Reds' way, to be fair, in this game. The Blues were good, but not fantastic. It was one of those weeks where the Reds go hot and cold. It was another kind of cold week for them. Yeah, consistency seems to be their main problem, but still, they've got a good scrum, if nothing else. Next week, the Blues go on to play the Hurricanes away, so it gets substantially harder. For the Reds, they have got the Rebels back at home, so the Rebels will be desperate to pick up points in that one. We'll see what the Reds can do. Speaking of the Rebels, they've lost 26 points to 31 to the Waratahs. The Rebels with 2 tries, Dane Haylett-Petty and Ruru going in. For the Waratahs, they got 4, Naravoro, Miller, Hannigan and Foley. A pretty frantic start in this game, a bit of helter-skelter stuff, but neither team really able to kind of put things together properly. There were more errors. It was similar to the first game. Kicks not out from penalties, like silly yellow card for Meeks. Putting his boot out from a ruck to kind of interfere with the play was a bit cynical. But that only cost them 7 points during that period, so I guess in the scheme of things, not too bad. Could have been better. Tars scrum again was on top, so it was another match where we had one scrum being pretty heavily penalised, not quite to the same degree as the first game, but it was still not a good look for the Rebels scrum. Both sides though scored pretty nice tries. The Rebels with a nice slick set play move for Dane Haylett-Petty's try, which is worth a look if you've got a few minutes to watch the highlights. For the Waratahs, Miller's try was just some quick work through the hands and some good support play. So yeah, half-time was 10 points to 17, so the Waratahs in front. And then the second half was just all the Rebels. Man, they had so much ball, and they were just getting line breaks, beating defenders, and they were only unable to score tries. They did get a quick one through a quick tap, and Ruru went over for that one. That was good kind of heads-up play from them. But from then on, because that Ruru try was in like the 44th minute, it was only penalties. They had all this ball, all this territory, and then only able to kick penalties. So that they did go out in front. I mean, the lead changed in this game about 3 times, so it was a pretty good watch. But they went out to a pretty comfortable lead, 26 points to 17. And then the Waratahs got an intercept and managed to get a try from it, not directly, but a few phases after. And then another try from an intercept directly, Foley going over for it. So that managed to put them 31 points to 26 out. And that's how it finished. It did have a grandstanding finish. I'm pretty glad because I took some cold medicine last night and then my internet went down during the game, so I didn't get to watch it live. But I managed not to spoil myself on it. Yeah, a bit drowsy. So I managed to avoid the internet, and this was great because there was a real grandstanding finish. 2 minutes out, the Waratahs had the ball on their own line, like literally on their own line, and they just tried to pick and drive it for a full 2 minutes just to try and see the game out. And they did it for about 1 minute and 50 seconds before they got penalised. So the Rebels did have one last chance, but they couldn't do anything with it. So yeah, it was not to be for the Rebels. A few key things. I mean, Foley needs to find touch when he's kicking from the hand for penalties, because there's at least twice that he did not find touch, and you can't be doing that. But likewise, Naivalu for the Rebels, if it's going to go out on the full, let it go out, and if it's not going to go out, catch it and keep it in. He was kind of confused and managed to make a couple of mistakes the same way. So was kind of letting them out of jail. But the Rebels, I mean, statistically should have won this game. More possession, more territory, a higher tackle percentage, less penalties conceded or fewer penalties conceded, more clean breaks, more defenders beaten, more offloads. Everything was in the Rebels' favour. They did concede more turnovers, but they had more ball. The Rebels needed to win it, and they didn't do it. So, yeah, it was pretty disappointing for them, but that puts the Waratahs really in the driving seat going forward to the last 2 weeks of the competition, because they got the Sunwolves and the Brumbies at home, both teams kind of at the wrong end of the table. So, in theory, the Waratahs should be able to coast into top spot in the Aussie Conference and perhaps even challenge the Lions or whoever is the top of South African Conference for that second spot on the table. So it could get interesting. We'll see how things go. What did you guys think of these games if you saw them? Any key moments? And yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again for the Saturday games tomorrow. All right, see you later.